Hey Gator Nation, we welcome you back another week of Florida football, and wow, did you show up last week? 90,000 people inside the swamp. It felt that way, and because of you, I really think that's why Florida was able to pull out that huge victory over Utah. Hi everybody, I'm Jeff Cardozo. It is our First and 10 show presented by Wells Fargo, where we'll get you ready for another game inside the swamp. This one, it is the SEC, it's Kentucky, and Kentucky is a team that certainly needs a little payback after what happened last year, but Florida has won 20 of the last 21 home games against the Wildcats. So really excited to get into the swamp in just a few hours, but gonna need your energy once again. You were loud, you were crazy, you were yelling and screaming, and it felt like the swamp again during the heyday there, the mid-90s, the mid-2000s. So let's do it again. And I'm sure some people are really excited to do it again. That is, of course, Coach Napier and Sean Kelley. Both of them got their debuts in the swamp last week, and they're going to talk to each other right now about this matchup.
This Saturday night, another home game, another big challenge for the Gators. Kentucky comes calling. Mark Stoops' team is 1-0, Coach. They are loaded in a lot of ways. Should be not only a fun atmosphere, but yet another big challenge for your football team.
Yeah, no, this is a group that won 10 games last year. You know, Coach Stoops has steadily improved their program. You know, they've really been one of the teams, in my opinion, that has consistently gotten better each year under his leadership. So, dynamic quarterback, a lot of veteran players coming back. They know how to win. I think they've got good systematic approaches in all three phases. You know, they play complementary football and they put their team in position to win. You
mentioned the dynamic quarterback, Will Levis. Characterize him for me, if you don't mind. What do you see in him?
Well, I think the guy's an accurate passer. He makes good decisions. He's a heck of an athlete. He's a big, strong guy. Design runs. He makes the unannounced play. He can extend and scramble. You know, this guy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. You know, he's got a really good draft grade going into the year. And I know he's excited about improving that draft grade as the year goes on.
The style will be different, won't it? I mean, you just played a Pac-12 champion in Utah. Seemingly, the SEC opponents play perhaps a little differently.
Yeah, no, I think that Kentucky is, you know, I think in the last four meetings with Florida, maybe it's 2-2 if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, Kentucky's going to come down here. They're going to expect to win. They're going to play hard. They've got a brand of football, and there's no question SEC plays a little bit different. This is an Eastern Division game, and these count double, you know, reality. So we're excited about the opportunity, and certainly to be back at home in front of that crowd is going to be special.
If there's one thing, and I hate to do this to you as we tape on Monday, if there's one thing the Gators do, they'll win. What would that be?
Well, it's always turnover margin is at the top of the list. You know, we talk about our formula to win. We got to own the ball. We got to attack the ball. And that's an area we can improve on offense, and certainly defensively, if we can continue to get takeaways, we'll have an opportunity.
All right, so we kind of have our first normal game week. We're not coming away from training camp and whatnot. Can you give us any insight as to what the players' schedule will now look like moving forward, starting with this Kentucky week?
Well, I mean, we run, lift, and put the game to bed. We introduce the opponent, have a walkthrough on Sunday. We have the day off on Monday is team recovery. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, we're full gear. Thursday, shells, and Friday, walkthrough. Same format we did last week. We're just going to do it for a second time.
All right. The guys were very excited about their movie this past weekend, going into the win on Saturday. Do you repeat the movie, or do you go with something different here, trying to duplicate your result from game one?
You know, our operations people do a great job mapping all those things out. We'll have a different movie this week. But, you know, it's great to get the players away, let them focus on something else for a little bit, you know, enjoy each other's company. It's one of the great things about the game of football is these, you know, Fridays and Saturdays as you approach the game, you got a lot of time with each other. And it's good to have a little fun and have a little balance.
Well, you certainly made history this past weekend, Coach. Again, congratulations. Good luck this week against the Kentucky Wildcats.
Thank you.
All right. Head coach Billy Napier. I'm Sean Kelley. We'll see you next time. Go Gators.
All right, Sean, thank you very much. And of course, Coach Napier. Well, Coach Napier made a phone call when he got hired to our next guest, and that is Savannah Bailey. If you don't know Savannah, she is such a huge impact and part of this program. She does something called GatorMade. You heard over the summer where guys were getting suits. Well, you heard all the speeches and different things that they put out on social media. Well, guess what? She coordinates all those, and she brings all these big speakers in to make sure that the guys not only have a great time here at the University of Florida, when the playing days are over, they know how to do some really good things the rest of the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is Savannah Bailey.
I'm Savannah Bailey. I serve as a Senior Director of Player Relations and of GatorMade. GatorMade is our personal and professional development initiative specifically for football scholar athletes. It's our privilege to help develop them into the men that they want to be and provide amazing opportunities and experiences for them to grow and invest in themselves. One of those was this summer. We took our first annual abroad service trip to Athens, Greece. We took 10 of our guys as well as 6 women athletes and got to serve local communities, embrace ourselves in some culture, some good food, some fellowship, and really just gaining perspective in what it looks like to be in another part of the world. And then to come back to Florida and be a change leader and be an agent of change in this community and their communities at home.
The main thing the service means to me is just helping someone out, going through and taking time out of your day to go help someone and ultimately just put a smile on their face.
I think they come back and be a more responsible citizen. They come back and be a more vocal leader. They come back and really take advantage of their education and opportunities and resources.
All right, Savannah Bailey is such a big part of what's happening here with this University of Florida football program, and we want to know what's happening with all of you out there. There's so many people out right now getting ready to get inside the swamp, but if you're not here, I want to know where you're watching from, where you're listening from, because people all over the country know how special Gator Nation is, and I know you're really excited for the SEC debut. So post in the comment section right now where you're watching from, and we'll give a little shout out, if we can, to each and every one of you. Well, the stadium was loud, it was rowdy. You couldn't hear anything down there. Heck, you couldn't hear anything in the radio booth, but you're going to hear right now as we mic up one of the players, Xzavier Henderson.
0-0, new week. Let's go, let's be great. Work day, man. Yes, hey, since this going on the Gator page, let them know, bro, we need the whole stadium, you feel me? After the catch, y'all need to say blur, like, sticky, oh. Put a smile on your face before I get mad, please. Put a smile on your face before I get mad. Call God. You too, put a smile on your face, boy. You blessed to be out here, boy. The fans say you need to start wearing a mouthpiece, bro. Wait to my mom, though. I know she gonna be watching. You think like when you threw that ball, you went to, let's go. You feel me? You gotta start wearing a mouthpiece. We got to. Our boy, shout out to the camera. I've been mic'd up all day, you know.
Well, always love those mic'd up segments. Xzavier Henderson, a guy that's going to be a huge impact, and hopefully that happens tonight. Well, we know all of you that made their way into the swamp again, over 90,000 people. It was the 10th largest crowd in UF history, the largest opening day crowd in University of Florida football history. So again, kudos to you, Gator Nation. You showed up, you showed out, and Billy Napier, after the game, knew how big each and every one of you were. So this is what he said after the game last week, and a couple other players as well.
To be in that orange and blue tonight was pretty special.
Shout out to the fans. They had that place rocking.
My ears are ringing. I feel like they're still ringing right now.
The work, the trust, and to be able to go compete in an environment like that, they made a difference.
You know, the crowd definitely brought the energy. They picked the team up, they picked me up.
Most of the time, we couldn't even hear each other talk. It was very electric out there tonight.
You know, so shout out to them.
Well, I got to talk to Coach Napier on the field right after he talked to the television and, of course, hugged his family. Got to do that first. But, gosh, the smile on his face was so awesome to see. And I know how excited he was to welcome every single person into the Swamp. And again, know that you made an impact into what they were able to do against Utah, and of course, encourage that this week. But it's going to be no easy task. Kentucky, of course, won up in Lexington last year, a hard-fought battle that the Gators want a little redemption with. So right now, we've got our Gators breakdown team. We've got Kyle Crooks, we've got Sean Kelley, and of course, we have got one and only Scott Carter of FloridaGators.com to tell you everything that you need to know about this matchup.
Now joined by the voice of the Gators, Sean Kelley, and senior writer of FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. Get you set for Florida and Kentucky here on the First and 10 pregame show. Well, Sean, let's start with you because your first experience in the Swamp, boy, it doesn't get much better than that. Game-winning drive from the offense, the pick in the end zone. How did you describe it to yourself and just after the broadcast, what the environment was like and what the broadcast was like?
Well, it was as good of an environment as you'll find in college football. There's no doubt. Everything from a crowd that was primed and ready in a lot of ways, right down to the weather kind of cooperating at the last second, and then a thrilling game that, basically every play was an impact play from about midway through that first quarter on. I mean, I guess even on the opening drive, Florida turns it over and then you start to move closer to the edge of your seat throughout the process. Sometimes you're gifted a game like that, and to have it be my first broadcast at the Swamp, Billy Napier's first game at the Swamp, all those things kind of collided in a good way to make for a very memorable night in front of, as we all know now, a record crowd in a home opener.
And Scott, when you analyze what Anthony Richardson did, his first start in the Swamp, only second career start, what were his teammates saying? What was he saying from his performance the other night?
Well, I think Anthony, the teammates basically were saying, "Hey, we've seen this." They said they've even seen that pump fake spin move that he did on the 2-point conversion in practice. I've never seen that from anybody. So to hear them say that they've actually seen him do that in practice, that's pretty impressive. I mean, Anthony is Anthony. He's a low key guy. I mean, I think he's handled to kind of deal with a lot of this, but without question, he elevated his stature, not just among Gator fans, but nationally. I mean, when Davey O'Brien, a National Quarterback of the Week, now you're seeing him really jump up in serious Heisman talks, after one game. So we'll see how it goes, guys. But I thought Anthony handled himself really well. I thought Billy Napier and company called an excellent game for him to manage and let him make the plays with his athleticism when they were there. And he took advantage every time.
And Sean, we saw the identity of this offense. Some of the offensive line coming back. You also had Osiris Torrance up front, but the three running backs were outstanding. We haven't seen Lingard yet, despite some of the fumbling problems. The running backs, man, they were impressive in game one.
Yeah, what does that tell you about that group when we haven't seen Lingard yet? I mean, that's a very talented young man, and I guess the trust in ETN to play him in a big spot like this as a true freshman. But you learned why Johnson was what he was in the Sun Belt last year, and that certainly translates to the SEC. I love the fact that offensive line played the way they did. I think in a lot of ways under Napier's system, that line is excited about the ability to just go road great at will here. That's kind of what this offense is designed to do. I think it also puts Anthony in that good position that you were talking about, that he can let the game come to him. And when you have the protection like they provided and the push on the run, all those things, play into, I think, exactly what Napier was hoping for as to what this offense could be. Still some question marks about, guy can take it over take the top off on the edge there, or perhaps the tight ends that Napier would desire to have in the long run in that offense, which he does love that position.
And Scott, if there is one criticism, although when you beat a top 10 team in your season opener, you don't want to harp on the negatives, but in terms of stopping the run defensively, what is Coach Napier, everybody saying just in terms of the defensive effort against Utah?
I think it's really the same as before the game, Kyle. I mean, the defensive line's a position group on this roster that they know is inexperienced. There's some developmental pieces there that they're trying to see what they can do. And, they're going to give up some rushing yards, as we saw against Utah. I think it was 231. And they're going to continue to rotate a lot of guys in and out. Tyreek Sapp, Chris McClellan, Jervon Dexter's the name up there, but they're going to have a lot of people, a lot of young guys around him to get some reps and get some stops. So I think that's just going to be something to keep an eye on as the season unfolds here, because again, going into the season, I think Napier and the defensive staff knew that was just a position in need.
And all games are important, Sean, but this game, because it's in the SEC now, SEC East implications, Kentucky comes to town. It always seems like it's a big game very early in the year when Kentucky comes here. But you look at them entering this game, no Chris Rodriguez, most likely. He's still out. They have a couple of injuries at the running back position, shuffling a lot offensively on the offensive line. Kentucky, what do you see from them coming in and the challenge they bring?
Well, they still have Will Levis, and that is as much a storyline as anything else in this game. Whether you want to compare the two quarterbacks or just know that Levis, not only looks the part, he is the part for Kentucky. That's an NFL quarterback, coming down the pipe right now for the Wildcats. And 21 of 32 last week, had to do a lot on his own with no running game behind him. Kentucky should be concerned though that he was sacked 4 times against Miami of Ohio. And Levis still has a penchant for kind of throwing the ball around a little bit in a bad way. So perhaps if Florida can win some of those one-on-one matchups up front, they can put Will in a bad spot, and perhaps you grow your takeaways there. But, they have a transfer at receiver in Robinson. I like the way that he played in his first game, but this is a very different Kentucky look than we've seen here in recent history. The big blue wall is not quite so big right now. And yes, they're going to try Horsey out over at left tackle. And, he played there in the Citrus Bowl to end last season, but there's a lot of question marks there. And if you look at their win over Miami, they get ahead and get comfortable because of short field and some big plays on special teams. So I think there's a reason why Florida is now probably a touchdown favorite in this game. Some of that has to do with the Gators are in the swamp this weekend, but Kentucky's got issues here in week 2, and the timing's real good for Florida, not so great for the Wildcats.
And Scott, how much do the players and not so much the coaches, because they weren't here for it, but that loss last year to Kentucky and how that kind of spiraled the season at that point early in the year? I talked to Kingsley Brocken last night, and he had mentioned that was one he still thinks about that game last year. Have any of the players talked about that game from last season, maybe that revenge factor coming into this game?
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been asked about that, Kyle, and whether it was Kingsley or I know Tyreek Sapp earlier this week said, yeah, man, you take that personal because you never want to experience that. But at the same time, I thought he measured it by saying, but you can't let that, get those emotions affect you on game day. You've got to go there and do your job. So it's something I think that, it's on their mind, but at the same time, so many of these guys are young guys who didn't play a relevant role in that game last year, Kyle, that I don't know if it stings maybe as much if it was a veteran team. But yeah, it was a difficult loss last year. I've written this and said it. It kind of epitomized Florida's season, really. They had the 15 penalties, 8 false starts. They had every chance in the world to win that game. But they just made too many mistakes. And in the end, they had to watch the Kentucky fans rush the field. So, no doubt they'd love to be the ones walking off the field with the win tonight, Kyle.
Well, guys, I appreciate the time. We look forward to an SEC opener. Sean, we look forward to your call on the Gators Sports Network. And Scott, we look forward to reading all your work after the game on FloridaGators.com.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right. Appreciate the time from Sean and Scott. We'll send it back to Jeff here on the First and 10 pregame show.
So there you have it, all the insight that you need to know right there. And let's hope that Anthony Richardson continue to dominate like he was able to do last week. You saw a lot of new faces part of the Gator offense, and also the Gator defense, and it was certainly fun to see. And looking forward to learning more of those names, seeing what they can do on the field, and of course, just go out there and represent Gator Nation the right way. So again, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. 7 o'clock is game time. It is on ESPN. You can also, of course, listen to the voice of the Gators, Sean Kelley, Shane Matthews, Tate Casey. That'll be on the Gator Sports Network from Learfield, all across the state of Florida. Of course, nationwide, you can find the apps and do all those cool technical things that you do. But the coolest part is, it is game day once again. We're so excited to be here with you. Our First and 10 show presented by Wells Fargo. Again, we'll do this each and every week, and if you weren't able to get up to Gainesville today because it is a sellout, LSU is also sold out, so that only leaves you a couple of games left. So make sure you go on to FloridaGators.com, try to get some tickets because you want to be a part of this atmosphere. I am telling you, you want to be a part of what's happening right here in Gainesville. So hope everybody has a great time. Tailgate properly, make sure you're safe, and then once you get in the stadium, be loud, be rowdy again, and we'll have a doctor write you a school note if you can't talk at work on Monday, because that's what it is all about, and then we know you did your thing. For everybody that made this happen, I am Jeff Cardozo. We'll talk to you next time, but let's have fun in the swamp again, and go Gators.